Welcome to this webinar about using business constellations and what is needed to facilitate business constellations, to use them in your day-to-day practice. What are business constellations, and what is for what questions can you use business constellations? So what I will do, I'll share my insights, share my experience with you, and explain a little bit more about how they work and how you can use them, because for me, it's a very powerful tool, a very powerful method to get deep into organizations and to really get to the root cause of problems, and to not use bandages and to fix quickly, but to fix things for the long run. So I'm very excited about business constellation. I really want to share this with everybody who wants to listen and to use them themselves. So let's start with the presentation. A little bit more about myself. Well, my name is Martijn Nijma. 46 years old. I'm married and have two daughters, 15 and 13. And well, that's where my international experience started, is that I did an AFS exchange to Fort Worth in Texas. So I went as an exchange student when I was 18, I think, and I lived in America for 1 year. And that really, I met all these people from all over the world, and I was really excited, and still am, about meeting people from all over the world, different cultures. And then I went to Groningen. That's a university town in the north of Holland, and I studied business administration. So that's where I learned how businesses work and how all these mental models about businesses. Then I worked for IBM, and I worked for Syntense, which is a Dutch consultancy firm, and that's where I learned how to do consultancy, how to advise, how to work with entrepreneurs, work with business owners, and I learned a lot about how businesses work and how they don't work. And what I found out is that some businesses work very well without using all the things I learned in school, and others don't work well, and they use all the models and all the systems that I used in school. So I found out that there's something else influencing the success of businesses, and I was interested in what was that. In 2007, I started my own consulting firm and training business. So I help entrepreneurs, managers, business owners to use their intuition and intuitive methods in order to have more success in their lives, but mostly in their companies. So it's a combination of business expertise and intuition expertise. And I do coaching one-on-one on our team coaching. I do consultancy and training and workshops. So that's a little bit more about myself. I see that there are more people are here, so that's good. Yes, my mission. I think I want to share this. Why am I doing this? Because I want to align businesses with the needs of people and the planet, and making profit as a result. And for me, that's important, because profit is a result. It's not like the main focus. It shouldn't be the main focus. The main focus should, how can you contribute to the world? How can I help people and the planet? And then make a profit as a result, because it's so possible. And I think that using intuitive methods and intuition is a very good way to align with all the things in the world, with the planet, with the people, and working from a different level of consciousness. And that's what I want to do, is help people raise their consciousness level and look at businesses in a different way. And business constellations are a very good way to do that. So yeah, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I want to share a little bit about my international adventure, because yeah, as you can see, since the beginning of 2016, I've been working more and more abroad. And it started actually in 1988 when I went to high school in Fort Worth. And then when I worked with IBM, I was also traveling. I was working with other countries, and I really liked that. And I also love traveling privately, so I visited a lot of countries and met a lot of people. And then when I started my own consulting business, there was no international part, and I thought, well, why not? Why can't I do this internationally? So that's why suddenly, or at the moment, I decided I want to do more internationally. And well, you can read my blog about that, because how this went was very crazy, actually. How I ended up in Sofia, Bulgaria. I had never thought about that. So it wasn't in my business plan, but I loved it there. It was wonderful meeting the people there and doing the work there. So I was there in April and May. And then I also got in contact with Soul France, the Society of Organizational Learning in France, and they asked me, for why don't you come here and give us a training, or organize a training how to use business constellations yourself, how to facilitate. And that's what I'm going to do in end of November, and we'll go into that at the end of the webinar also. So why business constellations? Well, for me, it is a quick, not quick and dirty, but it's a quick and clean method. It's quick because, like, sometimes in almost 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you get to the you already see what's happening, what's the problem, and where the real root cause of a problem is. Instead of doing research, talking to people, finding more research, doing some data analysis, this goes so much quicker. And it reveals the unseen truth. So if you talk to people, they just all have their own view of the world, and you get their view. And then by talking to a lot of people, you might get a general view. But the thing is, with business constellations, you go a layer or two deeper, and there you find the real truth. And so that means that if you work with that deeper layer in organizations, you don't put a bandage on, but you create a lasting solution, a solution that is really solving the problem. And the thing is that you include the deeper knowing of people in the organization, because when I work with people in organizations, with business constellations, people say, oh yeah, that's what I felt or knew all the time, but I couldn't put my finger behind it, as we say in Holland. I couldn't really touch the issue, but now I've seen it, I have felt it, and this is what it is. So people know that it is right. And so you touch this deeper knowing of people in the organization. And yeah, that gives a lot of energy and power to also take the right steps to solve the problem. And you work from a holistic point of view. So that means that you're not looking at parts, or you're not fixing like one part of the organization or one part of a person, but you're looking at the whole. It's really a systemic tool, because it looks at the system as a whole. And yeah, if you have read the book Reinventing Organizations, it really helps to create teal organizations, because it really fits that metaphor of a living system, a living organism. And yeah, that's what business constellations do. And for me, I always love, you don't have to work very hard anymore, because you don't have to analyze, and you don't have to come up with all these smart things, and you don't have to really think hard. You just be, you are, and then you let it unfold, instead of working hard. So it's working hard in a different way. It's working hard by following your intuition and by sensing. It's working hard by not allowing the not knowing. But if you get used to that, it's not working hard anymore. And it is the right time. The world needs this. At this moment, we need organizations that bring more to the earth, that do different things with other people, that make good products, and that people can work in together from a more loving perspective, instead of competition. And if I get something, you don't get anything. It's more like a win-win-win-win situation, and that's what business constellations are all about. If you have questions, let me know, because then I can really answer them, and then you get everything you want to know. But if there are no questions, I will continue. So what are business constellations? There's me, and it's all related to system thinking. So that's also with SOLID, the Society of Organizational Learning. It's also based on system thinking, that we are all part of a bigger system. So if you're born, there's this family system. You have a dad, you have a mom, and even bigger than that, they have a dad and a mom, and well, it goes back 7 generations that the system is influencing you. And they even have done some research, like with big traumas like war and disasters. It gets passed on by the DNA of people. So we see that in family constellations. We see that people are affected by something that has happened like 7 generations or 6 generations back. But you can also see it in the DNA. So this whole bigger system influences you. And by also what psychologists do, they just look at the eye sometimes, or this person. But you're part of a bigger system, and then even a bigger system. In the bigger system, there's this they call like the knowing field. And that's what the bigger circles are. It's not just like the family is not like you and it's not 3 people. It's 3 people creating a field, creating an energy field, and in that energy field, that's where things are happening. And if something happens in that energy field that gets disordered, then you will see symptoms. And that's the interesting thing, is that with business constellations, you're not looking at the symptoms, but you're looking at the cause of the symptoms. And then what's happening? Well, we go to school, and you bring your whole system. That's the circle again. So you're in school, and all these people with all their systems, but then you're part of the school system, the system of the classroom. And so there are more systems you are part of, but this is just a few. And then later on, there's work. So you join a company. And in the company, there are many people with their own system, but also the company itself is a system. And there's all kinds of forces going on in the company. And when I work with constellations, people, when I talk about this, and also when I use the constellations, people say, yeah, I knew this, because every human being has a sense of this system energy, of this knowing of the system. But we don't do anything with it because we haven't learned about it. We just learned about, okay, there's only the things that you can see with your 5 senses, but there's much, much more. So where did it originate? It originated with Bert Hellinger in Germany, I think around the 1980s. And it's not something he invented or something. It's not like it emerged from experience. He combined quite some methodologies, and he came up with the constellations by observing what is. He just wasn't trying to fix anything. He wasn't trying to change it, but he was just observing. And then with all these constellations, he found out that there are some timeless truths that underpin human relationship systems. There are some basic principles when people are together in a system. And the thing is, he called that the phenomenological way of looking. And it's just looking at investigating the truth through experience, and not by analyzing or thinking, but it's through experience. And what I like about this is that we don't have to really try to come up with all kinds of theories, but we're just working as on the go. It's action learning. I see that there is a question from Christoph. What do you call intuition? That's a good question. Because I didn't put that in the slides. For me, intuition is much more than your gut feeling. Intuition is your door to the the deeper knowing, to the layer of information that goes beyond your 5 senses. And for me, intuition comes in 6 flavors. There's the flavor of seeing, clairvoyance. So it's like seeing the things that you cannot see with your eyes, but sometimes you get an image, or you see something in the room. Your eyes are attracted to something. That's intuitive information. Or you have your hearing, but then the clairaudient, I think it's called. So you hear things that you cannot hear with your ears. And there's also the knowing, so that you know things without thinking. It's like the instant. It's like instantly it's there. And it's the same with, there is feeling. There's also intuitive feeling, and it means that but it's not troubled with all your pains from the past and all your longings and everything that's also in your gut. To develop your intuition means that you have to let go of things. You have to unravel all the things that are influencing your intuition, because intuition needs to be clear, sharp. That's what intuition is. It's fast, it's instantly. But what happens is that we have put all kinds of layers around our intuition. But intuition is, for me, is the door to this deeper layer of information, this deeper layer in organizations, the deeper layer in the world. And by using it, you get so much more information that you can use for for consulting, but also for coaching, for all kinds of interaction with other people. And with business constellations, you have a tool that also reveals this information without you having to do all the work. But in order to facilitate constellations, use constellations, you need to tune into this intuitive level. I hope that answers your question, Christoph. So where can you use constellations for? There are many areas. It started off with family constellations, that there are family questions or questions about personal questions. It's more therapeutical, and that's where it started. So that was the base of all the whole constellation movement, almost, I could say. Later on, you could use them with organizations. So instead of using, and we will go in how it works later on, but instead of using father, mother, brother, sisters, we use other elements. We use organizations, we use teams, we use leaders, we use products, customers. But you can also use career constellations, where you have, okay, what is the next step? What are my talents? How can I use my talents? How can I, which choices do I have to make? And there are constellations focused on illness. So where does this illness come from, and how, instead of only looking at the physical causes, where in the system, what in the system is causing this illness? Relationships. How do you, in your relationship, if things don't go as you want, what is the systemic cause of this? Instead of saying, okay, he's bad, or I'm bad, or she's bad. No, it's what in the system is causing this. You can work with teams. So how this, also a team is a system, and there's an energy field in this team. So how can we use this energy, and how can we position ourselves in this team in order to make it work much better, and in order to let everybody flourish in this team and get the best out of the people? You can use it for marketing. How can we bring our products, our services into the market? What is needed for that? How does the system support this? What is the bigger system asking from us in order to let it flow, actually let our products flow to the customers, and let the money flow from the customers to us? And also for strategy. So what steps do we need to take? Where do we need to go with our business? And also from a systemic point of view, what is the best way to work with that, to do that? There are also many types of constellations. You have constellation. The basic constellation is with a group of people, like a workshop setting, and somebody has a question, and other people are representing the different elements. But you can also use tabletop. What you see in the picture is a tabletop constellation, where you use wooden figures or other things to represent the different elements. You can also use floor markers. You can use even visualization. You do it in somebody's head. And you can use drawing. That's also something you see on the picture. So depending on the setting, and if you do it one-on-one or you do it with groups, you can use different forms of constellations. And then there are different ways of facilitating. You can use a directive way of facilitating, like that you are in charge and you decide which one, where you move something, or what somebody has to say to somebody else. Or you can work with fixed interventions. There's a book that has all kinds of interventions you can do in constellations. And you can say, okay, we need to do this intervention now. And then you use the steps in that intervention. But you can also use silence. Sometimes I do constellations where nothing is said. And it's very powerful, but it's different. And you can use fixed format constellations with fixed elements, like yourself, your intuition, and your ratio, or with your customer and the problem of your customer, or with a customer and your marketing. So then you don't have to decide which elements you're going to put in a constellation, but you have a fixed format. And you can use an intuitive way of facilitating. And well, as you might understand, that's my way of facilitating, is that you don't know where it's going, and you just follow the system. You follow the energy of the system. So what problem areas can you use it for? And I've just mentioned a few, because otherwise I could have 5 or 6 slides with all kinds of questions. But most of the time, if you look at the picture, that's when you use constellations. Like if it looks like you're walking into a wall, and you don't see a solution, but you know there must be a solution. And same for your customers or your clients. If they really don't know, they've tried everything and they don't know why is it not working? I mean, we have tried everything. We have used every method. We have used all the tips and tricks we have got from everybody, and it is not working. So, for example, high turnover rate. So people leave the company all the time. And what is happening there? Lots of resistance. You want to change something, or you want to introduce a new way of working, and people are just saying, no, we don't do it, or they're not saying it, but they're not doing it. So that's some question. But you can also use it for a diagnosis. If you say, okay, I want to find out what is the cause of this problem, and then you can use the constellation as a tool, and then later on you can just say, okay, this is the cause, and we're going to use another method to find the solution. Leaders that cannot fulfill their job. Sometimes leaders just cannot deliver. And then instead of saying we need to fix this leader, we need to fix this manager, we're going to say, okay, what in the system is causing this leader to behave as he is behaving? And that's a different approach. It's the approach not looking at the person, but looking at the larger system. Marketing, like I said, okay, I call it intuitive marketing. How can we use the energy of the larger system, or how can we use the systemic forces to easily get more clients and to easily get our products to the market? And there are different ways of doing that. Team building, and not like, okay, we're gonna run in the woods and that's the team building. No, we're gonna really look at the deeper layers in the team. So what is needed to make this a stronger team, and to what I said, like that everybody can flourish in this team. But it's also good for consultants or coaches. What is my position as a consultant? How do I position myself in relationship to the manager, the larger organization, the team, and to myself, and to my own company? So it's also a good way of doing reflection on your own role as a consultant. Well, what I said, strategy planning, but then from a deeper level. So it's not doing a SWOT analysis, as we are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. It's not looking at the BCG matrix or whatever. No, it's you're going to look at the at how in this larger system, what is the right place for our company, and how can we continue growing, and where do we need to go? And the last one is, I was reading it, I thought, what do I mean with that? But what I mean is, you as a management team, for example, you want to bring on a change in the organization. And well, you can also first use a constellation, what change is needed. But if you decide, okay, we just want to do this change, then you can use a constellation to see what issues will arise when you do this change. And then you can beforehand, you can already put things in place to tackle these issues. And in that way, it's much easier to bring on a change in the organization. So how does it work, constellations? And it's not that I'm gonna explain how they really work, because sometimes it's something you need to experience, because they do some research on what is happening in a constellation, because sometimes it looks like magic. It's like people know things that they shouldn't know, or they do things that they couldn't know that they should be doing. So I'm not going into that. I'm just going to explain how the procedure works. So what you do is you have an interview. So there is this question about, from your client or from some person, okay, I have a question about my company. And the only thing you do in an interview, and that's different from coaching or consulting, is that you just want to know the facts. You want to know what is happening, how long has this been happening, how big is the company, who's the owner of the company, how does the money flow in the company, how is the hierarchy in the company, who is the boss, and who is... So you just want to know the facts. And you want to know what is the real question. What do they really want to know? And then pretty soon, actually, you go on with choosing elements. What elements are relevant in this question? And elements could be functions. You can have like the marketing director and the production director and the consultant. And you could have departments. You can have the organization, the clients, and the product. You can have elements like packaging, even like you want a different packaging. You can have all kinds of elements, also more abstract elements like money, or the how do you call it, like the initial reason why a company was founded. So it's like the raison d'être. So you choose the elements, and that's also where your intuition comes in. Okay, it's also in the interview. You can ask somebody, okay, what elements are relevant here? You can think of elements, but sometimes you say, well, there is something missing. We need some other elements, and then maybe you get a word or you get something. You say, okay, let's bring this in as well. And then you place the elements. And well, as you see in the picture here, there are 3 or 2 elements. The blue one is placing these elements. But you can have more elements, and you can have the tabletops. So then you have the little wooden figures for the elements. And even doing only this gives you a lot of insight, because then if you walk around the constellation, or if it's a tabletop, you look at the table with these elements, it gives you a lot of information. Why is this so close to that? Or why is it this farther away? Why is he not facing him? And it's no coincidence. Sometimes say, oh, that's coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. But the real power of constellations lies in the fact that this is just a starting point. And now we're going to look what is shown here, what is happening here. You let people move. So you say, okay, if you want to move, what is the movement you want to make? And then it really reveals what is happening in this organization. yeah, I have seen clients run away, or representatives of clients just walk away, and they say, well, there's no place for me in this setting, because the company is having some internal issues. So, and that's why there's no way I can become a customer here. Or I've done this constellation with somebody who wanted to know if he needed one or two websites, one for his private clients and one for the more business clients. And I just put a representative for the website, and one for the business customers, business clients, and one for the private customers. And then I asked them, just position yourself, just follow your intuition or follow your inner movement. Where do you want to stand? And the website was right in the middle, and to the left was where the customers, the private customers, and to the right were the business customers. And the website was going, well, I cannot see them both. And it was in 5 minutes. And he said, okay, yeah, it's clear for me. I need two websites. And then if you start rational thinking, you think, well, I'm just looking at three people here, and how can I decide upon just seeing three people doing this? But that's what happens with constellations, is that they touch this deeper knowledge also in the one who is watching, in the one who has the question. And by touching that deeper knowledge, the people know I need two websites. That's a very simple example, but it's also very powerful because it's so simple. So you observe what is shown, and you start exploring, and you start following the flow of the field. And that means that sometimes we need to add an extra element, or we need to make another movement, or you sense that people need to be closer together, so you ask them to move closer. And then there, at a certain point, there is something like, and that's also, it depends on the way the person who's facilitating, in which way are you really trying to fix and to change something, or in which way, or how much do you want to follow the energy of the field. But the thing is that a new equilibrium is created, a new balance, in which the energy starts flowing more easily, in which everybody in the constellation is feeling much better, in which there's more connection between the different elements. And the thing is, when people leave the room, the world has changed. Not only because those people have taken a different position, or that things have moved into a constellation. When people move out of the room, your world is different. And I don't know how this happens, and that's something you need to experience for yourself. But I've done many constellations, and it's very amazing what is happening afterwards. And then you need to finish up, and that's also important that you I always say, dismiss the people from their role. They had to not play, because it's not a play, but the representative, they have to be dismissed from their representative role. So this is actually what a business constellation is, and it's not very difficult to do, and at the same time it is, because and that's why I would say you need some kind of education. You might not need like 2 years education. There are courses of 2 years, and that's why I'm giving a 5-day course, where I think that in 5 days you can learn how to do this and practice constellation, because you need to practice, and you find out, okay, this is what's happening, and okay, this is where I find my own patterns intervening with the constellation. So if there are questions, then this is a good time. Otherwise, we'll do a little exercise. And I know that the chat is a little behind, or I'm a little behind the chat, or whatever, but it's not all synced. So if you have put a chat, it might take a little time for me to answer. And otherwise, we'll just continue with the exercise. Why 5 days? Yeah, that's a good question. Because, well, actually, I have a training in Holland for 6 days, and then I did this training for an international group of 5 days, and it was 5 consecutive days, and it works. So that's what I say. We'll do it 5 days. But yeah, it's not like it's like a fixed thing. You need 5 days, and it's 3, and then you start practicing, and then it's 2 later on. So after 3 days, you can already use some of the techniques and the method. So what you need now is the 3 pieces of paper. So please take 3 pieces of paper. They don't have to be big. You can rip 1 piece in 3. And we're going to do a little constellation so that you can experience how it is to do this constellation. And at the same time, it also gives you insight in how does this business constellation work fits me or not. So it helps you to do different things. So on 1 piece of paper, you write I, or me, or je, or ik, depending on your language. I don't know it in Bulgarian, so just write whatever you want to write, but it's you. It's a piece of paper that represents you. And you see the little arrow. Because if you use these are floor markers. If you use floor markers, it's good to have a direction in which way they are looking. And you place this piece of paper somewhere in your room. Intuitively, or maybe you can think about it, it doesn't matter. And then you take a second piece of paper, your customer. Also with a sense of direction, or with a direction on it. And you place it, and this is just an example what I do, but just sense where do I need to put this customer in relationship to myself. And then last, you take a piece of paper and write business constellations. And you also put this piece of paper in. Put it on the floor somewhere. And this way you create a field, you create a system. Or actually a representation of the system. And what you can do now is that you're going to stand on your piece of paper with the eye on it. And there you start sensing how is it to be at this spot, at this location, this place. And how do you relate to the other 2 people? Just imagine that on these piece of paper there are also people standing. Oops. And just observe. So no judgment, just observe what is needed from you. How do you feel? What do you sense in your body, your emotions? And it's interesting to see, okay, how do you relate to your customer? And also, how do you relate to business constellations? Do you feel attracted? Is it are you excited? Or is it just a little bit, ooh, you want to move away? And then you step off this piece of paper and you step onto another one. So just always step off, step on. If you just step off in order to get out of the energy of this element, and you go choose another element. For example, you step on customer or client, depends on how you call it. And then you stand on that piece of paper and you do the same. How do you feel there? What do you sense there? How is it for your customer to see you and to also see the business constellations? Do you also feel that he wants to make a move? Do you feel a movement inside your body, or is it just, oh, I'm very relaxed and I just want to stay here? And you don't have to move it yet. You can if you want, but what I always do is first step on all the 3 papers. And then you step off this piece of paper, and sometimes it's good to turn around a little bit, shake a little bit to get back in your own energy, or step on your own piece of paper again. And then you step on the piece of paper with business constellations on it. And then your rational mind is a little bit, probably a little bit confused. How can I represent business constellations? What do I need to feel? So that's the moment that you say, okay, I just start sensing, what do I sense here? I just don't have to think about it. It's just, okay. You sense your body, you sense your emotions, you sense what are you looking at? Is there a movement you feel in your body? How do you relate to the other 2 people or pieces of paper that represent people? Do you feel attracted, or do you feel pushed away? Or do you feel more connection with the customer? Do you feel more connection with the I? Or maybe you feel connection with something else. Could also be that you say, well, actually there should be something else in this constellation. And for now, it's too much to do that. But in a normal constellation, you would put another piece of paper for that, what the business constellations are connected to, for example. It's just an example. And then you step off this piece of paper and you step on the I again. Just to feel, sense for yourself. So how is it that you have these 2 people standing there, or this piece of paper, and saying, or you were thinking, of course, when you were on it, how is it to hear that from the other ones? And maybe there's a move you want to make. So what you're going to do, you're going to make a move from each piece of paper. So you stand on each piece of paper for a moment, and you feel, does this piece of paper want to move? Does this element want to move? And you feel that by just sensing in your body, does it want to move? Do you feel attracted to another place in the room? And that's when you're following the field energy, but you can also try something. What if I would move there, what would happen? So then you just say, okay, I'm going to move here and see if this is better or not better. So that's a different way of working with movement in the constellation, is that you say, okay, I'm going to try this out. And that's what you also can do with strategic decisions. You can try something out. What if we move that way? What if we are focusing on these new kind of customers? What is happening? But for now, I would like to ask you to step on each piece of paper consecutively and feel, sense from that piece of paper, does it want to move or not? And then things might change. So I just have an example of it for this case. And then you finish by standing on your own piece of paper and just sensing, okay, what is it here? How do I feel? What do I sense here? How is it to be in this place? And how do I relate to business constellations? And how do I relate to my customer? And also knowing how your customer related to the business constellations. So this is a way to explore. So what do business constellations, how do they fit in with my work, with me, with my customer? And yeah, it's a little exploration. and you can add many more elements and many more movements. But for now, for this exercise, this is what you're going to do. And if you want, after the webinar, you can do whatever you want with this. And the importance of finishing is that you dismiss all the pieces of paper. Also, pieces of paper need to be dismissed. Otherwise, this energy will stuck to the paper. And sometimes it's very, you can really feel it, and sometimes it really doesn't matter. But for me, finishing is a very important part. So please think all the pieces of paper, shake them a little bit, and put them back onto a stack. And they are pieces of paper again, instead of representatives for the customer, business constellations, and yourself. And I'm curious what you thought about it. What did you find out? How did it go? So please leave your comment in the chat box, and then I can react to that. And yeah, as you can see, it's a very easy way actually to use constellations. This is a very basic way. You can do this for yourself. You can even do this with a client of yours. Even if you like do a business consulting, you can do this with a customer. Christoph says, makes me think of P&L tools like Score. Well, I'm not familiar with that, great Christoph, so I'll look into that. I'll write that down. Score. Okay. Yeah, so business constellations are based on a few methodologies, and so there are relationships with other methodologies. That's true. And what I like about constellations, what I think is different, is that there are many more layers behind this. So what in this, for example, in this constellation, you could also add your father and your mother to see how they relate to the business constellation. What in your family system is causing you to either like or dislike business constellation. And then you can, for example, free up yourself from this family bonds to really make a decision based on what is good for you instead of what is good for the family system. To name one example. And the same for the customer. You can even put in the customer's system and maybe some elements that represent decision makers in the customer system. Christoph said, felt the need to move parts of the system. Yes, you mean, yeah, so the customer or the business constellation need to be moved. Yeah, most of the time there is some movement. And I'm also wondering what information did you get out of it? Is it like, because that's what with business constellations, more than family constellations, you use it also to analyze. You can also think about it. So, okay, I felt it, I sensed this, and this means for me that I decided to, I need to get closer to my customer, or I really need to use business constellations for my customers, or I need to give business constellations and customers more space. So that's what I like these kind of exercises for, is they can give you a very clear information about what is needed. And sometimes it's really literally, like if you need to make more space, then that's something you can do in your daily life. And sometimes it's more subtle, and it's more about the energy of the connection, or the quality of the connection that you feel needs to change. And know that by moving these pieces of papers, you're already changing the system. You're already changing the underlying energy, and that means that things have already changed. So what I would like to do with you now is tell a little bit more about what is needed from a great facilitator, from my point of view. So this is how I look in facilitating constellations. And it is acknowledging what is. It's about, okay, this is what there is, without judgment. So, and that's, yeah, sometimes it's easy, and sometimes you really have a judgment, or you really think, oh, this shouldn't be this way, we need to change it. But acknowledging what is means that, okay, we don't have to change it. And at the same time, there's the question, okay, we don't like this and we want it differently. But as a facilitator, you even must be prepared to say, okay, there's nothing. If nothing changes, it's also good. That means that you don't have to have a goal. And at the same time, you have a customer that has a goal, and that brings on tension. But in the facilitating, it's not like you're going to work towards a goal. I'm going to work towards, okay, we need to fix this, because then you get too much of a pushing energy, energy in the system, and it's not going to work. So that's also in the training in Paris. What I would do is also work with this. So how are you going to let go of your wanting to fix it? What are you going to do with your judgments? And how do your family systems, because that's all, most of the times it comes from your family system. How can we change things in the family system so that you are more easily working with no goals, more easily working with no judgment? Connects with the deeper layers. So what for me a great facilitator is also connecting with these deeper layers, and not just looking at the surface. Oh, I see this, I see that. Okay, that means that we need to bring more space. No, if you really want to do lasting changes, then you need to be still and ask her what is more. What more is there here? And it means that you're curious, you're exploring, and you're experimenting, instead of knowing and fixing and having a fixed path in steps you're taking. And for me, it's more fun, but it's also there's more tension also. We're like, okay, I want to change something, but I let go. So you let go of your ego, meaning that that's also related to the judgment and the having no goal, because that's what our ego wants, and it's okay. But for facilitating constellations, it's better to not have it. And then when you bring it back to the client and to the business arena, then you can say, okay, what we have seen in the constellations means this and this and this, and that means that we're going to do this and this and this. And that's what I like also about the business constellations, that you can really use both your left and your right brain. Well, and you follow your intuition. That's what like I said, Christophe asked that question about the intuition. It's your different intuitive senses. So now about the training in Paris. The goal is to use business constellations in your day-to-day business. So that's what I'm going to prepare you for. And again, 5 days are 5 days, and it's not like a year course. So I'm going to teach you some practical forms of constellations that you can use right away. You're going to learn how to do the interview, how to select the elements, set up the constellations, do the interventions, and round it up. So it's the real full picture of constellations. And you're going to develop a radar for the systemic forces. I'll explain more about the systemic forces. And you're going to develop a way of sensing them and what is needed. You're going to learn how to work in groups and one-on-one. So you see the little Playmobil puppets, or what is it? Figures, and those are the ones I played with when I was young. And you can use all kinds of tabletop figures. So, and I didn't put it here, but you're also going to use your intuition. I'm going to teach you to use your intuition more and more, and will also help you in different areas of your work. And because I'm also working intuitively, I have like a framework in those 5 days what I want to cover, but I will also adjust it to your wishes. Like if you say we want to do more one-on-one than the group, then we'll do more one-on-one. And you will practice a lot. And that's what I think is the best way of learning, is practicing, and then I'll say, okay, well, why did you do that? And why don't you could have done this? And what would happen if you do that? Or we do that together. So it's a lot of action learning again, because we can talk about the theory for 5 years, but you learn it by doing it. So what are the results? You will have learned the basic principles of constellations. You know how to facilitate basic constellations, and I mean basic by, okay, you're not gonna really be a family constellator who can solve traumas and stuff like that, but you will be able to do simple constellation with your clients about questions they have. You will also, and I don't know if it's there, but you will also have a sense of how to when to use constellations in the business setting, and when it's better to do something else, and what elements will help you to get the answer the customer wants. So you will have learned different formats, and you will have developed your own intuition, and you will also have some background exploration. You've done some created some more freedom, because, well, as everybody has their family system working through them, and by freeing that up, you can become a better facilitator, I think. And the thing is that we're going to practice on each other, so you will also have your own best business questions answered, and you also have the energy to set the steps, to take the steps needed. So that's the good thing I think about these kind of trainings, is that you learn how to facilitate, but you also get a lot of constellations for your own business and your own life. Oh, Christoph, yes, it's 10:30. I'm a little bit okay. Practical. It's 5 days, 2 blocks. You practice in between the blocks. There are max of 16 participants, and it's in a great location in Paris. And for now, I can give you a 10% discount if you use the code 3012, because that's because you watched this webinar. So yeah, the Q&A, I forgot. Oh, time flies, time flies. Well, the things, people, if they're still in the webinar, then if you have questions, this is the time. And I'll say this, so you get the discount code, you can write it down. You use 3012, and that's when you do the payment. Then you can, I don't know how it works, but somewhere you can say, okay, I have a discount code. It's partly in French, partly in English, so, well, it will work. Are there any other questions? See now, so you can see me again. Yes, I'm really excited to go to Paris and teach you how to use this in your daily or your business life. And I know that people are using it in different ways. Some people use it, like me, I use it all the time. And other people say, okay, for sometimes I use the business constellations, and sometimes I use other methods I have, or I make a combination. I know that some people have their own method, or have learned a certain method, and they combine it with constellation. So you can have a fixed format constellation with a theory, with a different theory behind it. So it's a very flexible method, I think, that you can use in different areas of your business. And well, I don't see any questions. So if you have any questions, you can also send me an email. I'll put that on the screen, and I'll have a link to the training, so you can see where you can get the 10% discount. Yeah, so on the right